Netflix VP of Gaming, Mike Verdu, has dropped some hints that they may be getting into cloud gaming. Let's break down the news and get to it. In a recent interview with TechCrunch, Verdu had stated that Netflix is seriously exploring a cloud gaming offering, and that the company will also open a new gaming studio in Southern California. The statement comes at a very interesting time, especially with Google just recently announcing the closure of Stadia. That said, it's not too big of a surprise. We actually covered it way earlier last year when Netflix was first showing signs of having interest in this space. Then there was also the fact that last year there was a very interesting image that got leaked about Netflix's gaming service that had PlayStation 5 controllers and a photo of Ghost of Tsushima. Could be just placeholder stuff or things used for internal concepts, but at the end of the day it doesn't change the fact that they were found within the iOS app. Now, another interesting detail is that Netflix's stance on cloud gaming appears to be more of added value rather than separating it into its own business. Mike Verdu went on to say that it's a value add. We're not asking you to subscribe to a console replacement. It's a completely different business model. The hope is that over time it just becomes a very natural way to play games wherever you are. Verdu noted that this is a very different model than Stadia, saying that Stadia was a technical success. It was fun to play games on Stadia. It had some issues with the business model, sure. And whether or not you think he's right about that statement doesn't change the fact that they are trying to do things very differently. We can even take a look at their current gaming approach with the Netflix apps available for download via your Netflix subscription. They've genuinely been catering a really solid mobile gaming library. They've got some really good games in there, and while it did start off a bit rough, I would say that they've really picked up the pace and have secured some pretty major mobile titles. But I think the biggest difference is that it seems like Netflix is okay with the long-term play. Even talking about these mobile apps right now, I'm sure a lot of people are hearing about it for the first time just hearing me say that there are mobile games for download a part of your Netflix subscription. Netflix themselves have stated that the games engage with less than 1% of subscribers. And while to be fair, back in August when this number was shared, that's still equal to over 1.7 million daily users, it's a far cry from Netflix's total 221 million subscribers. But genuinely speaking, they don't seem to be pushing their games library all too much either. It's taken some time, but they definitely have a catalog worth checking out if you're a mobile gamer. And that less than 1% statistic didn't stop them from acquiring more great games, not to mention it doesn't seem to be stopping them from acquiring developers. Netflix appears to be stepping up its game development by opening up an internal studio in Southern California. This will be the company's 5th studio. They currently have another in Helsinki, Finland, as well as Boss Fight Entertainment, Night School Studio, and Finland's Next Games. The new California studio is actually being led by the executive producer of Overwatch. That's a pretty big name to get, and honestly it's very exciting to hear. Netflix has stated that they do have 14 games in development within its own studios, but as you can imagine, due to the scale of these studios and them just really starting out, they're more than likely going to be aimed at the mobile space. And that brings up another very interesting point of discussion. Is their vision of cloud gaming in the here and now just for mobile games? Netflix as a company still considers itself very early in the stages of its gaming initiative, but it hasn't ruled out expansions beyond mobile. But right here, right now, it's understood that it probably won't be heading to console or VR at this point. As I've already stated, they seem to be perfectly comfortable taking a very slow approach to this. Cloud gaming doesn't necessarily need to be used for bringing console experiences to a mobile phone, because it can also be used for lower-end phones to access apps they wouldn't be able to run normally. This sort of application and service already exists too, and this is pure speculation on my behalf, but I certainly think that this is the approach they're going to take when it comes to the cloud. They seem to be perfectly content taking their time getting into the gaming space, and they're starting in a very smart way by focusing on the mobile gamers. Why? Because there's plenty of them, and many people have the Netflix app already installed on their mobile phones. Now, from my understanding, these game apps don't actually show up on lower end phones, they only show up on newer devices. At least that's been my own experience when using a variety of different phones to see if I could download the apps. And I wouldn't be too surprised to find out that's the reason they're not really advertising big on their gaming selection yet. After all, what's the point in advertising something that a part of your audience can't even access? Cloud gaming could solve that issue for them. It could lead to all those apps being accessible by everyone who has an internet connection, which they probably do because they're streaming on Netflix anyways. And while I do think that this is how they'll start, I wouldn't doubt that they have plans for bigger things than mobile gaming in store, but those will come later on. The statement today already seems to be discussing that very thought process. Whether or not Netflix ends up being successful at what Google failed at, though, is anyone's guess. But I do think that they're smart in knowing that this is going to be a long-term investment. They've been building internal studios and been buying out companies to make games already. Yes, they may be mobile focused, but who's to say that these studios won't go on to make something bigger later on? The truth is that as of right now, cloud gaming still has ways to go before it really pops off in a big way. I also have no doubt that Google Stadia's shutdown is certainly going to stunt cloud gaming's growth for the time being, but it's no longer a question of if but when these cloud gaming services take off. There's a very good reason why so many major players in the tech industry are looking at it and why they want to get involved. It's currently a key talking point within the CMA on the Activision Blizzard acquisition from Microsoft for a very good reason. I do wish Netflix the best of luck though. The space they're trying to get into isn't an easy one to read. But as a consumer, I'm happy to see competition as it'll only breed innovation, and that's a good thing for us. Do you think Netflix could succeed in this space though? Let me know down below. Now if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful at all, be sure to hit that like button as it really does help the channel out, and if you're wanting more content like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. And as always, thank you for watching, I hope you have a great day. This has been The Virtual Cloud, giving you the latest and greatest on everything cloud gaming related, and until next time, I'll catch you in the clouds.